In this training module, you will learn how to identify some of the most common ephemeral pond species you will encounter in Wisconsin, including fairy shrimp, frogs, and of course, salamanders. In most ephemeral ponds, you will probably encounter a huge diversity of invertebrates. For the Wisconsin Salamander Survey, we will only ask you to identify one, the fairy shrimp. Fairy shrimp are not just one species, but include multiple species of crustacean. In Wisconsin, fairy shrimp are ephemeral pond indicators. While they can give live birth during wet conditions, fairy shrimp also make eggs called cysts that lay dormant while the pond is dry. Once water returns, these eggs hatch, completing the fairy shrimp's life cycle. This unique adaptation to intermittent drying allows fairy shrimp to flourish in ephemeral ponds. Fairy shrimp are small invertebrates, usually 0.75 inches or shorter in length. They have many leg-like appendages that move in a wave-like motion as they swim belly up in the pond. Fairy shrimp will often be whitish or orange, but their color can vary. You can see two prominent compound eyes on either side of their head and a forked tail at the other end of their body. While you conduct your surveys, keep your eyes peeled for these charismatic invertebrates, and remember to record them on your datasheet. Next up is the wood frog, another ephemeral pond indicator species. Wood frogs are one of the first species to breed in the spring, and they lay their eggs in fishless ponds to avoid predation. This makes ephemeral ponds an ideal habitat. Wood frogs have a distinctive dark brown mask. It starts as a narrow bar extending from the nose to the eye. Behind the eye, the bar widens to encompass the tympanum, or external membrane of the frog's ear. Wood frogs also have a white upper lip, distinctive dorsolateral folds, and cross-banding on their hind legs. Their dorsal color varies but is typically brown or copper, and their ventral color is white. Wood frogs lay about 500 to 800 eggs per egg mass, and the egg masses are 50 to 100 millimeters in diameter. Egg masses lack an outer gelatinous envelope. This means that while each embryo is surrounded by jelly, there is no additional jelly layer surrounding the entire egg mass. Egg masses are laid near the surface, attached to submerged branches or plant stems. Wood frogs are explosive breeders that lay their eggs communally in a short period of time. This means that you will typically find many egg masses in the same vicinity. This next ephemeral pond indicator, the blue-spotted salamander, is a small to medium-sized salamander that is black or slate gray with blue spots or flecks. The size and density of these spots varies across individuals, and sometimes spots can be white or nearly white. These spots typically continue onto the ventral side or the underside of the animal. Eggs are laid individually or in small clusters of about 2 to 12. Unlike the wood frog, blue-spotted salamander egg masses have a substantial outer gelatinous envelope. When held in your hand and removed from the water, you'll find the egg masses to be loose or drippy. The egg masses will not hold their shape out of water. Blue-spotted salamander eggs are deposited on vegetation, leaves, and other debris in the pond. Our final ephemeral pond indicator is the spotted salamander. Its dorsal color is black or slate gray, and it has 2 rows of yellow spots that merge into 1 row by the end of its tail. Spots on the head may be orange, and the species has obvious costal grooves along its sides. The ventral color is lighter gray, and the lower jaw and throat are never yellow or cream. This will be important for differentiating it from the eastern tiger salamander later on. Spotted salamanders lay about 50 to 250 eggs per egg mass, and they have a substantial outer gelatinous envelope. Their egg masses are uniquely firm and hold their shape even when removed from the water. Egg masses are attached to vegetation near the surface and are often laid communally, so you're likely to find more than one egg mass in the same vicinity. All species have variation, and spotted salamander egg masses can be particularly variable. Egg masses can be clear, cloudy white, or have a green hue. In ponds with substantial algae growth, you may see egg masses completely covered in green algae. Additionally, egg masses can deteriorate over time, so you may notice that an egg mass that is close to hatching will be less firm than a fresh egg mass. The rest of the species discussed in this training are not ephemeral pond indicators, but they may be found breeding in ephemeral ponds or using the surrounding terrestrial habitat. The eastern tiger salamander is the largest terrestrial salamander in Wisconsin. Its dorsal color is black or gray with lighter colored blotches that vary in shape, size, and distribution. Blotches vary from olive to yellow to cream, but are never orange. The eastern tiger salamander has obvious costal grooves on its sides. Its ventral color is lighter than the dorsal, and its blotches continue to the ventral side. In adults, the lower jaw and throat are yellow or cream. Occasionally, eastern tiger salamanders can be mistaken for spotted salamanders. Look for that yellow chin and check if the patterning continues to the underside of the body. These features do not occur in spotted salamanders, as their spots are arranged in two distinct lines on their back. If you're ever in doubt, take multiple photos of the top, bottom, and sides of the animal, and your coordinator can help confirm your ID. Eastern tiger salamanders lay 15 to 110 eggs per egg mass. It can be hard to see in the field, but one identifying feature of their egg masses is that they have 3 distinct gelatinous envelopes. Wisconsin's other salamander species have 2 or less. Eastern tiger salamander egg masses have a substantial outer gelatinous envelope and are somewhat loose. They hold their shape out of water more than a blue-spotted salamander egg mass would, but not as firmly as a spotted salamander's. You'll find these eggs attached to vegetation near the bottom of the pond. For comparison, these egg masses are in order from least to most firm. Blue-spotted egg masses have a very runny consistency, and you can see how much they flatten out in your hand. Eastern tiger salamanders are somewhere in between, not flattening as much as a blue-spotted egg mass, but not remaining firm either. Finally, spotted salamander egg masses are by far the firmest, with a consistency like set gelatin. Keep in mind that the number of eggs and the size of an egg mass will vary for each of these species, so you should never use size alone to identify an egg mass. Take a moment to review this image. How many species can you identify? Pause the video if you want more time. This image shows eggs from 3 ephemeral pond indicators, all laid on the same branch. The dense clusters are wood frog eggs. The firm masses with a thick outer gelatinous envelope are spotted salamander eggs. On the very end of the branch, you can see one blue-spotted salamander egg mass, identifiable by its loose or runny consistency. The eastern redback salamander has a thick, brick red dorsal stripe, although this stripe is occasionally brown or absent. This salamander has white speckles on darkly colored sides, and its ventral color is a lighter gray. It has a long, slender body, and its hind feet have 5 toes each. You may encounter an individual that is lacking the characteristic red stripe. This is a unique color morph of the same species that some like to call a leadback salamander. In Wisconsin, the eastern red-backed salamander is the only species to lay its eggs terrestrially. It usually lays 3 to 14 white, spherical eggs that are 4 to 6 millimeters in diameter and do not have a gelatinous envelope. They are laid in one clump or mass and suspended from a single point, usually under a rotting log. Females remain with their eggs and will generally be found nearby. 4-toed salamanders are one of the smallest salamanders in the state. Their dorsal color is dark gray or reddish-brown with areas of dull orange. They have blue-white speckles on their sides and a distinctly Dalmatian-like ventral pattern that is white with black spots. They are named for their hind feet, which have only 4 toes each. Four-toed salamanders lay 15 to 25 cream-colored eggs, each of which is 4 to 5 millimeters in diameter and has its own gelatinous envelope. Eggs are laid individually, but in the same vicinity as one another. Four-toed salamanders are habitat specialists and suspend their eggs in sphagnum moss, usually 20 to 120 millimeters above the water. When the eggs hatch, the larvae drop into the water. Females remain with the eggs and will generally be found nearby. Finally, the central newt, a subspecies of the eastern newt. Adults can be either terrestrial or aquatic. In both forms, the dorsal color is olive or brownish and the ventral color is cream or yellowish. There are sometimes 2 rows of subtle orange-red dorsal spots, and there are always distinct, small black spots across the entire body. The central newt lacks costal grooves, and their skin texture is more granular than that of other salamanders. In addition to the adult and egg life stages, central newts also have a terrestrial juvenile stage. The juvenile, or eft, is entirely orange or brownish. The rest of its features are similar to that of an adult, as it has granular skin, black spots throughout, 2 rows of orange to red dorsal spots, and lacks costal grooves. Central newts usually lay their eggs individually. They range from yellow to brown, have a substantial outer gelatinous envelope, and are oval in shape. Eggs are often wrapped in fallen leaves on the bottom of the pond or attached to other vegetation. We're still working on collecting reference photos of central newt eggs, so feel free to send us yours if you see any. Thank you for watching this Species ID training module and learning about the ephemeral pond species of Wisconsin. This information is also available in a PDF document called Guide to Species ID at Ephemeral Ponds, which you can print at home and take into the field. For additional information about frog and toad species ID, please visit the Wisconsin Frog and Toad Survey's website and explore the Species Accounts page. Thank you for your participation in the Wisconsin Salamander Survey.